here to renew my high appreciation to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the host country, chair of the 14th session of the Islamic Summit, for its sustained support of the OIC's activities and the General Secretariat's work under the patronage of the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, and of his Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Vice Chairman. May Allah preserve them both. Your Excellencies and Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to renew to you and your governments my thanks and appreciation for the support you have given to me while assuming my duties as Secretary of our prestigious General Secretariat of the OIC, and to assure you of my firm commitment to work as per the requirements of the OIC's Charter to defend the issues of the Islamic Ummah and observe the decisions and resolutions adopted by the Islamic Summit and the Council of Foreign Ministers. Your Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome the distinguished representatives of the international bodies and regional ones, partners of the OIC. Their presence is a testimony of the interest they attach to the role of the organization in contributing to peace, security, and development worldwide. The OIC is satisfied with the dialogue and cooperation it entertains with them all. Your Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, our present session is being held under the theme of Partnership for Unity, Justice and Development, a theme that is quite topical for the aspirations of our peoples with the OIC in this particular conjuncture in which the Islamic Ummah finds itself confronting multiple types of challenges. Today, the Palestinian cause, the OIC's central issue, is still facing severe challenges with the persistence of the Israeli occupation policies based on colonial settlement, the Judaization of the city of Al-Quds, and the assault on the holy sites, especially the blessed Al-Aqsa Mosque. In addition to the continued murders, confiscation of lands, house demolition, arbitrary arrests, racial discrimination, apartheid, and ethnic cleansing against the Palestinian people. These illegal practices constitute a flagrant violation of the relevant international law, covenants, and resolutions. The perpetuation of these Israeli crimes and attacks against the Palestinian people, their land and their sanctities, makes it imperative for us to strengthen the spirit of solidarity and joint Islamic action and realize the political will through diplomatic efforts in international fora in support of the rights of the Palestinian people and confronting attempts to change the historical and legal status of the city of Al-Quds, Al-Sharif, with firmness in implementation of the relevant resolutions adopted by the successive summit and CFM's resolutions. The issue of Jammu and Kashmir is also a just cause that has not found a solution for such a long time. And we oppose the illegal actions by India on August 5th, 2019, to change the internationally disputed status of Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. In last November, a high-level delegation from the General Secretary of the OIC, led by the Assistant Secretary General for Political Affairs, Special Representative of Jammu and Kashmir, with the participation of the Assistant Secretary General for Humanitarian, Cultural and Social Affairs, effected a visit to Pakistan Azad Jammu and Kashmir within the framework of the implementation of the mandate entrusted to the General Secretariat under Resolution 1047 on the dispute of Jammu and Kashmir as adopted by the Council of Foreign Ministers. On the other hand, the report of the submission session in question is submitted for your attention. The OIC is called upon to redouble its efforts in support of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, including their rights to self-determination in conformity with the resolutions of the Security Council of the United Nations. The developments of these issues will be considered by the contact group on Jammu and Kashmir, which will meet here in Islamabad on the sidelines of our meeting. With regard to Afghanistan, we have followed all the aspects and the implementation of the resolutions issued from the 7th Ministerial Council held in Islamabad on 19 December 2021. In Islamabad, in this regard, I've assigned my special envoy to Afghanistan directives to cooperate with the Islamic Development Bank that has graciously prepared the legal framework and the legal fund as established by the CFM. The fund will be officially launched on the margin of this present session. On the other hand, I've dispatched my special envoy to Afghanistan, and he has held broad discussions with the ministers in Kabul concerning the efforts of the organization in the humanitarian, political, and economic field. I submit to your kind attention a special report on the progress achieved in the implementation of the resolution on the humanitarian situation in Afghanistan on the aspects linked to this first visit. Therefore, we shall continue dialogue with the authorities in Afghanistan, with international partners, with the objective to achieve peace, security, and development in this member country of the OIC. With regard to the aggression of the Republic of Armenia against the Republic of Azerbaijan, and a meeting and an agreement was held on November 2020 and put an end to the aggressions. Azerbaijan expressed concern in the face of non-observance of the Republic of Armenia of its obligations as stipulated in the agreement between the concerned parties. The General Secretariat concerned with the
delayed
settlement of the conflicts and under the CFM and the International Council will continue its interest of this issue. Excellencies, honorable ladies and gentlemen, the situation in Yemen still causes deep concern for our organization, which has committed itself to support Yemen's unity, sovereignty, and independence and territorial integrity, alleviating the human suffering and the conflict on the basis of international law, namely the initiative of the Gulf states and the executive mechanisms and the conclusion of the Conference of National Dialogue in Yemen and the resolutions of international legality, especially the resolution 2216/2015 of the United Nations Security Council. In this context, the General Secretariat of the OIC salutes and hails the idea that the General Secretariat hails the initiative announced by the Ministerial Council of the Gulf States to organize Yemeni consultations at the Saudi capital in Riyadh at the end of the present month. An initiative that will make it possible to fill the gap between the Yemeni brothers and to engage in an action to stop the blood selling, and to continue the action and for the stability and security in the region. In this context, we renew our appreciation to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for its unremitting efforts and initiatives to contribute to expediting a peaceful and lasting solution to the Yemeni crisis. I also reiterate the thanks and appreciation to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Emirates for their solidarity with our organization in the face of the condemned attacks by the Houthi militants against civilians and civilian targets. Over the past period, developments in Libya, in Sudan and Somalia have been a subject of continued consideration of the General Secretariat, which encouraged all parties concerned to adopt dialogue, and we today encourage them to redouble their efforts to overcome differences and lay the basis for stability and peace, for development, and to ensure that the interest of their peoples prevails. With regard to Syria, the General Secretariat continues supporting the efforts of the United Nations to achieve a peaceful solution to the crisis in conformity with the Declaration of Geneva and the resolution of the Security Council. With regard to Iraq, the convening in October 2021 of the anticipated early elections represent a positive element that we have registered and that we hail. As you well know, the political and security challenges and developments faced by the Sahel countries, Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger, and the Lake Chad Basin, Cameroon, Chad, Niger and Nigeria, as well as Central Republic of Africa, Mozambique and Guinea, reflects an important interest for the OIC. We underline the need to increase efforts to achieve peace and stability in these regions, and we call on the member states and the OIC institutions, as well as international partners, to help these regions to face up to the challenges confronting them. It is within this framework, to give a new launch for our organization in Africa, including in the Lake Chad and Africa, that I paid a visit in the current month to Chad, Cameroon, Niger and Senegal. And I had an opportunity to discuss with the leaders in those countries regarding these issues and ways and means to strengthen the OIC support to those countries. On the other hand, the delegations, high-level delegations from the OIC General Secretariat, led by the Assistant Secretary for Political Affairs, Dr. Dubey, paid a visit to Abuja to hold discussions with the leaders of the Commission of the OCDAO on ways and means to strengthen cooperation and coordination of efforts so as to contribute to peace, security and development in the region. Strengthening the positive role of our organization in Africa requires as well the designation of special envoy. To this effect, I recommend to your August Council to designate Dr. Nasiru Baku Arifari, former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Benin, as special envoy of the OIC General Secretariat for Africa, and I hope that he will benefit of your support. Your Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Republic of Bosnia is facing a preoccupying situation due to certain Serb parties and to their involvement and offensive, and this requires support for Bosnia-Herzegovina to help it preserve its territorial unity, its stability and sovereignty, to the efforts in favor of a global and just resolution to the Cypriot issue, and its support with the Turkish Cypriot Muslims in conformity with the parent resolutions of the OIC. Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the well-being and defense of the human rights of Muslim communities in the non-member states in conformity with the principles and objectives as included in the charter of the organization form a priority also in our action. We continue increasing our efforts to this end through visits, and dialogue with the leaders of the concerned parties. In this context, we express our profound concern with regard to the situation of Rohingya, and we call on the international community to act in an efficient manner, an urgent manner, to ensure proper conditions for the voluntary return of the people, the refugees, the Rohingyas, to their original homeland. We register our support for judicial action with the International Court of Justice, for the recovering of listenings in support of the Rohingyas, to put an end to all the forms of violence against them. I should like on this occasion to pay a special tribute to Gambia, to the Republic of Gambia, for their frontland role in support of the affairs and the meeting of the committee today against the violation of human rights against the Rohingyas would allow us to find a solution and to face up to the offensive in this regard. Honorable participants, according to the official reports of the Observatory of Islamophobia in the OIC, the reputation of the Muslim community in a number of countries is subject to defamation at a time when action is increasing against Muslims due to the rise of extreme right. All Islamic states are called upon to act together against such a situation and take necessary measures to fight against racist and xenophobic actions at all levels and to establish pillars of security and peace. In this regard, we dare rely on the member states to act together with the General Secretariat against Islamophobia. On the other hand, we need to collaborate with all the members of the international community to combat this phenomenon. It is with satisfaction that we have welcomed the adoption in 15th March by the General Assembly of the United Nations of a resolution designating the 15th of March of each year as International Day of the fight against Islamophobia. We express the hope that it will contribute to favor a dialogue at the international level of a culture of tolerance and peace. Our fight against terrorism is also an absolute priority for our organization. In order to face up to this phenomenon, we have established a multidimensional strategy on the basis of international law and the Convention of the OIC on Anti-Terrorism Act, including the question, one of the issues to which we attach special attention. I would like to draw attention to strengthening cooperation between the member states in culture and civilization. This is a subject of consultations that the General Secretariat is undertaking with the member states and international and regional bodies that partners in this field. And this is the object of active action in this regard. Well, I would like to avail of the opportunity to congratulate the UAE for having hosted the exhibition 2022, which has been the subject of consistent cooperation between the member states. Your Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in the field of social development and protection of values and regarding the institution of marriage and family, the General Secretariat is getting ready to convene other meetings of experts to achieve the discussion of the project of Convention of the OIC on the rights of children in Islam, a project that was elaborated with the Permanent Commission and Independent Commission of Human Rights, IPHCR. With regard to the freedom of women and empowering women, I would like to hail the Republic of the Arab World of Egypt the host country of the Organization for the Right of Women, for having allocated a special building to headquarter to host the organization. At the level of the capacity building of youth, I would like to pay special tribute to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for having decided to welcome and host the 5th session of the Islamic Conference of Ministers of Youth and Sports that was regrettably delayed due to the COVID-19. This General Secretariat continues its coordination with the Saudi authorities with regard to set a special date for the said conference. In terms of the media, the organization have sped up its investments in new media to enlighten the member states and the public and international public opinion regarding the vital issues for the Islamic Ummah and the Muslim communities in non-member states, as well as to educate the world about its projects and efforts in support of the least developed countries to face up to the propagation of the coronavirus pandemic. In the humanitarian field, the OIC General Secretariat services have been developed further over the past few years in collaboration with the international bodies. In this regard, I would like to thank all the member states and institutions of the OIC that have contributed to supporting humanitarian action of our organization, particularly the Islamic Solidarity Fund and the humanitarian partners, for most of which I would like to quote the King Salman Center for Humanitarian Action. The General Secretariat has put in enormous efforts to help the member states, the least developed countries, to face up to the pandemic of the coronavirus, to adopt and adopted multiple initiatives in this regard, including the opening of a special fund for the reception of accounts of contributions in support of the World Health Organization. In this regard, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has made a 20 million real donation in support of this fund for the acquisition of vaccines in coordination with the Salman Center for Humanitarian Action. I wish to avail of the occasion to launch an appeal to the member states to contribute further to this account to finance the purchase of vaccines for the benefit of the least developed countries in the OIC. Your Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, 2 years have passed by, and we have not yet been able to get out of the COVID pandemic. Due to this pandemic, measures taken during this period, our countries have faced economic difficulties and a drop of exportations of tourist activities. Based on this fact, the post-corona action occupies a special place in our action. In this regard, our organization has paid particular action for the implementation of these programs and economic projects in agriculture, in rural development, food security, employment and protection, social protection, and strengthening exchanges in trade and encouragement of investment in order to ensure the realization of the objectives as announced in our action program OIC 2025. Bearing in mind the importance of cooperation in the economic and trade fields between the member states and within the framework of the implementation of the resolutions issued by your council to organize a forum on investment in Africa, I've accorded particular attention to this issue, and I'm about to finalize the details of which I will inform you in due time. I'm happy to inform you also that the 8th session of the Islamic Conference of the OIC on food security and agricultural development, held in Istanbul in the Republic of Turkey on 25th to 27th October 2021, has given a new impetus to cooperation in the sector. The ministers have adopted three programs of the OIC for agricultural development strategies such as food stocks and rice and other products. Within the same framework, the OIC Tourist Conference and Labour Conference that will be held this year, respectively in Azerbaijan and the UAE, will allow the member states of our organization to take stock of the current situation in this particular sector and to elaborate a common strategy such as to enable us to face up to the challenges and alleviate the adverse effects of the coronavirus on the sectors of tourism and labor. Excellencies, Highnesses, the OIC has intensified its action in favor of strengthening cooperation between the member states in order to ensure the progress of its agenda in the field of science, technology, higher education, health, water and environment as fundamental pillars of the strategy of the OIC for the eradication of poverty, of disease, illiteracy and extremism. I'm happy, therefore, to recall that the second summit of the OIC on technology that was held online in June last has taken stock of the steps fulfilled by the member states in the field of technology and their policies and national strategy in this field. Therefore, undoubtedly, providing a high-quality level of education will be the optimal means against underdevelopment. The OIC plays an important role in the training of students of the member states. Allow me here to express my due thanks and gratitude to all the member states and organizations that give financial support to our universities, in consecration of greater solidarity and cooperation among the member states in the field of higher education, of programs of exchange in the member states to provide larger numbers of scholarships for the students, particularly in the least developed countries. In the field of health, the General Secretariat, in collaboration with the competent relevant organizations of the OIC, has adopted a traditionally well-approved approach to help the member states face up to the adverse effects of the COVID-19 with the help of the steering committee on health, of ministers of health, as well as the urgent measures taken by the ministers of foreign affairs. Secondly, an urgent financial support from the member states through the ISF and the group of the development, the IDB, and through action against fallacious media propaganda. Within the framework of legal convention and statutes adopted by the Islamic meetings and the Council of Foreign Ministers, represents the framework such as to allow the organization to fulfill its action in conformity with the agreements signed by the member states. In this regard, I'd like to renew our call to the member states that have not yet signed or ratified the agreements concluded within the framework of the organization to do so, so that these mechanisms may be established and become operative. In the forefront of this document, I would like to note the charter of the organization, the statute of the organization for women's development, and the Islamic organization for food security that are already operative, but there still are other important institutions that have not seen their statutes entering into force, such as the Labour Center and the Center for Cooperation and Policy Support. Within the framework of reform of the General Secretariat, a study has been elaborated by the Public Administration Institute in collaboration with the Chair Secretariat. The study has led to the elaboration of an organigram project for the Chair Secretariat, which are reflected in the annexes of my present report to this focused party. The Chair Secretariat, the implementation of the resolution of the OIC Foreign Ministers Conference, has held expert group meetings to elaborate new rules and regulations and to amend certain procedural rules. The Chair Secretariat has elaborated a draft resolution to govern the work of the contact group and another one to govern the OIC offices abroad, the members of the committee and the statute and the rules of regulation of the OIC. Your Highnesses, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the applications for observer status and consultative status are increasing day by day, with the increasing number of requests submitted by the General Secretary, received by the General Secretary from non-member states and international organizations and humanitarian organizations. We are gratified of this interest